You ain't no king, boy. There's only one king, and he's buried right here. The words cut through the humid Memphis air like a knife. Michael Jackson stood at the gates of Graceland, surrounded by hostile faces. 50 Elvis fans who'd waited all morning just to tell him he didn't belong. But what happened when those gates opened will shock you. August 16th, 1994. Memphis, Tennessee. 17 years since Elvis Presley died. Michael Jackson was at the peak of his fame. Dangerous had sold 32 million copies. He was called the King of Pop worldwide. But not here, not in Memphis, not at Graceland. To these people, Michael Jackson was an imposter, a young black man trying to claim a throne that would always belong to Elvis. The protest started at dawn. Word had leaked that Michael was coming to pay respects to Elvis, and the fans weren't having it. King of Pop? That's a joke, said Betty Morrison, 67, who'd driven from Arkansas. Elvis is the only king, always was, always will be. Michael Jackson's just a copycat, added Tommy Hayes, 45, clutching an Elvis album. Dancing around in sparkly clothes. That ain't music. That's just noise. By 10 a.m., the crowd had grown. 50 people holding Elvis posters, wearing Elvis T-shirts, playing Elvis music on boomboxes, all waiting for one man. At 10:47 a.m., a black limousine pulled up to the gates. The crowd pressed forward, shouting, "Go home, Michael. You're not welcome here. Elvis is the real king." The car door opened. Michael Jackson stepped out. He wore a simple black suit, no sequins, no glove, no fedora, just respect. The crowd went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the shouting got louder. "You think you can just waltz in here?" Betty Morrison stepped forward. "This is sacred ground, Elvis ground, not for wannabe kings." Michael looked at her calmly. "Ma'am, I'm just here to pay my respects." "Respects?" Tommy Hayes laughed harshly. "You wouldn't know respect if it hit you in the face. You've been stealing from Elvis since day one." The crowd murmured agreement. Michael stood perfectly still. "Dancing, singing, even the way you dress," Tommy continued. "It's all Elvis, but you'll never be Elvis." Michael nodded slowly. "You're absolutely right." The words caught everyone off guard. "I'm sorry?" Betty said. "You're right. I'll never be Elvis Presley." Michael's voice was quiet, but clear. "And I never wanted to be." But what he said next stunned everyone. "Ma'am, may I ask how long you've been an Elvis fan?" Betty lifted her chin. "Since 1956. Saw him on Ed Sullivan when I was 9 years old. Been devoted ever since." "And you, sir?" Michael looked at Tommy. "My whole life. Elvis changed everything. Broke down barriers. Made rock and roll respectable." Michael smiled. "Then we have something in common." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't going how they expected. "You see, Elvis Presley changed my life, too," Michael continued. "When I was 5 years old, I watched him perform. The way he moved, the passion in his voice, the way he made people feel." "So you admit it," Tommy said. "You copied him." "No," Michael replied. "He inspired me, just like he inspired you. The question is, what do we do with that inspiration?" Betty frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Michael gestured toward the mansion. Elvis Presley was born in Tupelo, Mississippi. Dirt poor, but he had a gift. A voice that came from pain, from hope, from the human soul. The crowd was listening now, despite themselves. He took music from different worlds, country, gospel, blues, R&B, and he made something new, something that spoke to everyone. Michael paused. That's not stealing. That's genius. But you, Tommy started. Michael held up his hand gently. I grew up poor too. Different poor. Different world. But the same hunger. The same need to use music to survive. His voice got stronger. Elvis showed me it was possible. A boy from nowhere could become something beautiful. Something that mattered. The crowd was quieter now. Some faces had changed. But here's what you need to understand, Michael continued. I never tried to replace Elvis Presley. How could I? He's irreplaceable. Michael looked directly at Betty. Ma'am, when you heard Elvis sing Love Me Tender, how did it make you feel? Betty's voice softened slightly. Like I wasn't alone anymore. Exactly. That's what great music does. It heals, it connects, it makes us feel understood. Michael turned to Tommy. And when you heard Jailhouse Rock, what happened? Tommy shifted. Made me want to move. Made me feel alive. Yes, because Elvis wasn't just singing. He was sharing his soul. And when someone shares their soul honestly, it touches everyone. The crowd was completely quiet now. That's what I learned from Elvis, Michael said. Not how to copy his moves or his voice. I learned to share my own soul, my own truth. He gestured toward the mansion again. Elvis broke barriers for people like me. Made it possible for any kid with a dream to believe they mattered. Michael's voice cracked slightly. He didn't just change rock and roll. He changed what it meant to be an artist in America. Betty wiped her eyes. But people call you the king. People say a lot of things, Michael replied. But there's only one king of rock and roll. There always will be. I'm just grateful he showed me the way. But what happened next shocked everyone. Michael walked over to his limousine, opened the trunk, pulled out a guitar case. What's that? Someone called out. Michael opened the case. Inside was a vintage acoustic guitar. Beautiful, expensive, obviously treasured. So this belonged to Elvis, Michael said quietly. The crowd gasped. I bought it at auction 5 years ago. Been waiting for the right time to bring it home. Betty stepped forward. You're giving it back? This guitar belongs here, at Graceland, where people who really understand its value can see it. Michael handed the case to Betty. Would you make sure it gets to the right people? Betty took the guitar with trembling hands. Why would you do this? Michael smiled. Because some things are bigger than ego. Some things are about legacy, about respect, about remembering what really matters. He turned to address the entire crowd. Elvis Presley opened doors that had been locked for generations. He made it possible for artists like me to exist. The least I can do is honor that. Michael started walking toward his car, then stopped. You know what Elvis would have wanted? He would have wanted music to keep growing, keep changing, keep bringing people together. He looked back at the group. I think he would have been proud that a kid who grew up loving his music found his own voice, his own way to touch people's hearts. The crowd stood in complete silence. Thank you for protecting his memory, Michael said. The world needs people like you, people who remember what greatness looks like. He got in his car, but before it drove away, he rolled down the window. Oh, and ma'am, he called to Betty. Yes? Elvis will always be the king. But maybe there's room for more than one person to make people feel like they matter. The limousine pulled away. leaving 50 Elvis fans standing in the Memphis heat, holding a guitar that had belonged to their hero. Nobody spoke for 5 full minutes. Finally, Tommy Hayes broke the silence. "Did that really just happen?" Betty Morrison stared at the guitar case in her hands. "He didn't have to do that." "No," Tommy agreed. "He didn't." Later that day, Betty Morrison called the local news station, not to complain, to tell them what had really happened at Graceland. "We were wrong," she said on camera. "We thought he was trying to replace Elvis. But he wasn't. He was trying to honor him." The story spread across Memphis, then across the country. Tommy Hayes was interviewed by Rolling Stone magazine a week later. "Michael Jackson showed us something that day. He showed us that real kings don't fight for crowns. They lift each other up." The guitar was donated to Graceland's museum. It's still there today. The plaque reads, "Donated by Michael Jackson in honor of the King of Rock and Roll, who made all music possible." But the most powerful moment came 6 months later. Betty Morrison was diagnosed with cancer. She was in the hospital, scared and alone. A nurse came into her room carrying a boombox. "Someone wanted you to have this," she said. Betty pressed play. Michael Jackson's voice filled the room, but he was singing "Love Me Tender," Elvis's song, in his own style, beautiful, respectful, healing. The note attached said, "Music heals all wounds. Thank you for teaching me that respect is earned, not demanded. Get well soon, Michael." Betty Morrison recovered. She lived another 12 years. Every year on August 16th, she visited Graceland. And every year she told people the same story. "The day I learned that there's room for more than one great artist in this world. The day I learned what real class looks like." The truth is, Michael Jackson could have destroyed those Elvis fans with words, could have reminded them of his success, his sales, his global impact. Instead, he chose something harder. He chose humility. He didn't fight for the crown. He honored the man who wore it first. And in doing so, he proved that greatness isn't about competition. It's about lifting up the people who came before you. Elvis opened the door. Michael walked through it with respect. 2 kings, different eras, same mission, making people feel like they matter. Sometimes the greatest act of strength is admitting someone else's greatness doesn't diminish your own. If you had the chance to honor someone who inspired you, would you have the humility to give them credit instead of taking it for yourself? That's what true kings do. They build thrones for others, not just themselves.